Okay, maybe I should start. Welcome everybody to the Limited English Proficiency Committee meeting. I think we should call the meeting to order at this time. And why don't we just begin by introducing all of us, since there are some new members on this committee. I'll start with myself. My name is Judge Suarez. I'm a judge on the appellate court. I'm replacing Justice Khan, who was appointed by the president to serve on the Second Circuit District Court here in Connecticut. By way of just a quick introduction, I've been a judge since 2009. At the Superior Court level, I spent most of my career either doing family and criminal cases, so I'm very familiar with the interpreters in the state of Connecticut, since in those areas of the law there's a huge need for them. In about 2020, I was elevated to the appellate court, and I've been here ever since then. And I'm still here, thankfully. So why don't we proceed with the next person? Ali, do you want to continue?
Yeah, thank you, Judge. Welcome. We're happy to have you. I'm Alejandra. I'm the program manager for Interpreter and Translator Services. I've been with the branch since 1998, 6 years as a staff interpreter, and I've been here in administrative office since, I think, 2004. We're just happy to have you in the committee. We're proud of the work that we have done with the committee, how we've been able to advance and stand out nationwide with the services that we provide to LEP individuals.
I'll go next, Judge. My name is Rich Lafredo. I'm a Deputy Director in the Project Management and Administration Unit of the Superior Court Operations Division. I've been with the branch since 2001, I think, is when I started clerking at the appellate court for a couple of years. I've been in this position since, I don't remember, I think like 2008 or 9, I think I came up to administration. Prior to that, I worked in the family clerk's office here in Hartford. And I have the privilege of working with Alejandra every day with the great work that she and her staff do in providing interpreter services throughout the state.
Great, thank you. I'm just going to go around my screen to the next person. Brittany, you're next on my screen. Do you want to just introduce yourself?
Hi, sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Brittany Kaplan. I am the staff attorney in the External Affairs Division and serve as the legislative liaison from the branch to the legislature.
Okay, thank you. Daisy, you're next on my screen.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon, everyone. Daisy Rosado Hack. Sorry, recently married, so I almost said my old last name. I am new to this committee, and it is a pleasure to be part of this group and the work that this group is doing. I've been with the Judicial Branch for 20 years here at the Court Support Services Division, currently a Deputy Director, and spent most of my time with the branch working in with contracts, procurement of services that are provided to the clientele that we serve. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Vivian, you're next according to my screen.
Yes. Hi, my name is Viviana Livesay. I'm an attorney with the Legal Services Unit. I started with the branch as a temporary assistant clerk in 1993, and I've been in the Legal Services Unit since 1998.
Thank you. Faika?
That's me. I'm going to apologize just in advance because we've got no installation in this building. But my name is Michelle Fika. I am not an official part of the committee, but I've been attending meetings for a few years. I am a staff attorney over at Connecticut Legal Services. And for the past few years, I've kind of taken the lead on our language access work at CLS and trying to also coordinate with judicial.
Thank you.
For 19 years.
Thank you. Troy?
Good afternoon, everyone. Troy Brown. I am the Director for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion for the branch, a newly created position this past winter. Prior to that, I was an assistant director. Assistant director? Yeah, assistant director at Court Support Services Division where I was responsible for procurement, training, as well as multicultural affairs. Good to see you, Judge.
Thank you. Welcome. Brandon?
Hello, everyone. My name is Brandon Pellegato. I am Chief Clerk for the Hartford Judicial District. I'm in my 27th year, meaning I started probably when I was 12, I think, if I remember that correctly. It's great to see all of you and meet all of the new faces.
Great. Well, it's great to meet all of you. And thank you for having me this year. I think at this point, I think I would just basically turn the program over to Ali. I think we have to approve the minutes of the November 1st, 2022 meeting. Obviously, I wasn't part of that meeting, so I'll abstain from voting, but I'll let you carry on. Ali or Richard?
Rich, actually, Rich, you want to go ahead and do that, and then I'll move on to the next one?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from November 1st, 2022 for those who are in attendance at that meeting.
I'll
So
second
moved.
that.
Second. Any questions, comments, concerns regarding it?
Nope.
Hearing none, we will mark them approved.
Great.
Thank you, everyone.
Just for the record, I will abstain because I was not part of that. I wasn't part of the committee at the time.
Yes, and Daisy as well. We
Yes.
won't count her vote.
Thank you.
All Thank you.
Allie, do you want to do the ITS update?
Yes, so we have a few projects that we have been working on since we last met. The first one that I would like to highlight is the video remote interpreting. We had, prior to COVID, back maybe 2013, attempted to develop a video remote interpreting to be able to provide remote services statewide. There were some technical issues. There was also some other aspects that were not really, it was not really the right time. So with COVID, with the need of everyone using Microsoft Teams, video remote interpreting became a necessity. And one of the limitations that the system had is that everything had to be done in the consecutive interpreting mode. So hearings that require assistance of an interpreter will take longer than a regular hearing or a hearing that was previously covered by an in-person interpreter using the simultaneous mode. So we were asked to develop and work with IT, and IT set up a great system. And it's an internal system that will allow the same video remote interpreter with an additional connection, which is the Teams phone, that will allow for simultaneous interpretation. So we developed guides, instructions, desk guides, and we were able to develop a pilot that was based out of GA14. Once we were ready to proceed, we started training all the arraignment courts statewide. They are all at this point up and running. We have received really, really great feedback. At this point, we're using it for Spanish, Polish, Portuguese. Soon we'll be adding Chinese, Mandarin. These are the languages for which we have staff interpreters because this is an internal program. We're also in the process of rolling out and also starting to use it formally for housing and juvenile courts. So it's been really well received. Staff, attorneys, judges, as well as interpreters are really happy with this addition of the simultaneous interpreting mode to be able to speed up the proceeding. It also allows, so there are two types of connections. The interpreter will establish the connection into the courtroom where the interpreter projects the voice into the courtroom. And then the interpreter also has the control to mute the voice so it only goes into the second connection, which is the Teams phone. So the LEP individual is able to put the headphones and everything goes only through the headphones. There is a second phone that is available for the attorney in case there is a quick attorney-client conference that needs to take place at the table. So that's when the attorney picks up the phone and they're able to have the conversation. Everything is muted to the courtroom and just with the assistance of the remote interpreter. Couple of things that have come up is sometimes housing matters have more than one party that needs an interpreter. So if there is no attorney, then we're able to have the second phone available to them. Or also with juvenile court, parents, more than one person will need the interpreter. So we're working with IT to make available a third phone, right, Rich? So there is at least 3 phones for 3 participants to be able to receive the simultaneous interpretation. So that's going well. We're just traveling to different locations and training. Another thing that we have going.
Allie, can I just chime in on that for a second before
Absolutely,
you go on to the advisements? Yeah, we've been really fortunate. IT has done a really terrific job in creating this system. Like Allie mentioned, we initially tried VRI, and the folks who have been on this committee for a long time remember back in 2013, I think it was, when we started with Derby, and the lack of success we ultimately had with that pilot. This has gone over considerably better. IT has made the system such that it really does mirror the in-person interpreter experience as much as possible. So I do want to just commend the work that the IT folks have done. Like I said, we finished arraignment courts. We should be done with the housing and juvenile courts, if not this month, by the middle of next month. I don't know where Judge Bizzuto will send us next, which case type will be next, but it is working really well. I don't know, Brandon, if you happen to have heard any feedback from your folks, or if Michelle, have you had the opportunity to see it in Waterbury or not, or any of your folks have, if they've had any interaction with it yet? And I'll let Brandon and Michelle go, and then Troy, I see your hand up.
I've received very positive feedback. It's very easy to use. It's extremely helpful during a court proceeding, as Allie indicated, because it flows naturally. And I will say that the housing court and juvenile courts cannot wait to have this system installed. So thumbs up to all of IT, and obviously you folks for bringing it to us.
Perfect.
And so I practice family law, so we haven't actually had that experience yet, but I'm going to bring it up to our housing attorneys because I think they're going to be really excited.
Perfect. Yeah, we have not scheduled housing Waterbury yet. I know down in that part of the state, it is Danbury is using it. Litchfield, we haven't started yet.
If I may, mainly the Waterbury area has been used for criminal motor vehicle arraignment court for Portuguese language.
Right.
Yeah. So thanks. I mean, this sounds great. I tend to be a visual person. And so I was going to ask a question. Is it possible that I can actually see it in operations just so I get a sense of it as a committee member? That way, if anybody asks, I can advocate and say why this is such a great thing. And, you know, if it means I got to come out of the office and go into a courtroom one day, it'd be nice for me to experience or see it in working progress, like Brandon has had the opportunity to see it. Then I can
sure. Well, if you want to go to Willimantic on Tuesday, we'll be there.
Actually, there was a sample video that we developed that we sent. I think Judge Bizzuto sent to all the judges, so maybe we can share that with the members.
Perfect. That would be good, and then I could try to get to another court besides Willimantic in the future. Got nothing against Willimantic, you know. Don't need to see the frogs this week.
Yeah.
Well, housing will come sometime soon, so we'll let you know. We'll be right across the street.
Yeah, we should be doing Hartford housing probably soon. We're just waiting for IT to finish the PA system upgrade in the Hartford housing court. Okay. But once we have that, because that'll be probably the closest location, we can send an invite to everybody who wants to take a look. And Michelle, we could definitely do that if you want to attend either when we go down to Waterbury. We can do that, or we could just schedule a test and invite everybody. We could just pick a courtroom, you know, that's relatively local around here and set up a test. We can do that as well.
That would be great. I mean, I'm willing to travel for sure. I mean, I had a question just, when you're talking about all these different lines, are they within the team system or are they like phone over internet that's kind of out of that system?
It's all Teams based.
Okay. Oh, that's so interesting. I didn't even know
Yeah.
that was possible.
Yeah, so it only works. So this is for only in-person events. So it only works when all of the players are in the courtroom other than the interpreter. So the interpreter appears remotely via Teams and everybody else is in the courtroom. And then the interpreter is able to control whether or not they're speaking through the headsets just to the LEP individual or they're projecting to the courtroom so that everybody hears what's being said.
Great.
If you could set something up, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Sure, I'll look around and maybe Brandon, we could, is the equipment still in the test room that we utilized, right?
And great
Correct.
point.
And I believe we have housing coming soon, so there's another opportunity.
Yeah, so we have a meeting every Friday with IT. So let me see when the housing PA system will be up and running. And if that's too far down the line, maybe we could schedule something at GA14 in the courtroom over there.
Absolutely.
So we should we'll get back to everybody on that early next week on when we can do that.
Mhm.
Great. Wonderful.
Okay. So another
Dr.
project that we have within interpreter services is, I don't know if you remember prior, a few years ago through the LEP committee, we translated and video recorded the advisement of rights for family support magistrate. And those are played at the beginning of the session while the magistrate is sitting also in court. So that was really good, very helpful, very well received. We also have, here we go.
Mine's went off already. Windows first. I was trying to cover it up.
Okay, I think we're good.
You're a little
So-
early. It's 2:18, not 2:20.
So Judge Gold approved the official advisement of the rights for criminal court. And we took that advisement of the rights, we translated into Spanish, which is the most requested language, and we did an audio recording. So this recording, this advisement was pushed to all the criminal courtrooms, clerk's computer, and they're being played when session starts right following the judge's advisement in English. This is just a way to standardize the way that they're being done. And it also allows for interpreters to be moving from courtroom to courtroom to be able to cover assignments and provide services throughout the building without having to sit in one courtroom waiting for the advisement to be done. At the same time, we, based on our translations and keeping in mind what the demographics are for each one of our judicial districts, we identified the 6 most requested languages. And we did the same when it comes to housing calls, the instructions that are done prior to court starting every morning. And we translated them into Spanish, Portuguese, Polish, Arabic, Chinese, Mandarin, and Haitian Creole. And we also made those recordings available to the different districts. That goes for the, I'm sorry. Oh, I thought someone was saying something. No. So I think that's going well. All those recordings are being used. Interpreter staff are all very happy. Information is getting out there. And one last item that we have within interpreter services is something that has been going on and just growing with time, struggling with our staffing levels. Once a certified interpreter retires, it takes a very long time for us to be able to hire someone who has the necessary skills for us to bring in, build up to the certification level. So it could be like a 3-year process for those who do it successfully. We have been meeting with human resources and Rich and Roberta, our director, trying to find ways to reach the right applicants, because that's what we're not being able to reach. We're not being successful at attracting the right candidates. One of the things that we did is we started using the Core Interpreter One job description, which is the non-certified permanent job. It did help at the beginning in the sense that all our temporary interpreters were able to apply, so we did not really gain anybody. We've been doing this for a year, ever since we were able to attract 4 applicants from the outside. So we have really gained 4 Spanish staff interpreters, but we're still struggling to be able to bring anyone else who's going to be at the language level that is going to pass our screening exams at this point. So that's where we are at now.
So, Ellie,
Yeah, and when, oh, go ahead, Judge.
so I have a question. Where's your recruitment pool from? I mean, do you advertise? You in any particular forum, or you just word of mouth?
We have a recruiting website on the branch's website. We also are continuous recruitment with the branch website. So we have our own page within Interpreter Services in the intranet that describes our program, what the requirements, what the process is, how to contact us. We do study resources.
Mm-hmm.
So when someone will register with us that they want to start taking the initial screening exams, we pretty much give them all the materials and information necessary for them to come well prepared, or at least know what to expect. Beyond that, I know Human Resources is posting things in some websites, recruiting websites, and this is just going out next. So we're doing that maybe every 4 months, and the posting
Every
goes
3
up
to
for a
4
month.
months.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, like Ali said, we don't have a ton of success with this, and that's really why programs such as the remote interpreting is so helpful, because that allows us to maximize the limited resources that we have. You know, because when cases are heard or can be heard with a remote interpreter, that interpreter can cover considerably more cases in a day than if they had to get in a car and travel from location A to B to C.
Sure, makes sense.
Yeah, so we're very fortunate that Judge Bizzuto has pushed this initiative, realizing the necessity of it.
Great.
I just had a question for Alejandra. Have you, so in the United States, is there a degree that you could get at a university for, or some kind of advanced degree?
Yes, there is nothing really available in Connecticut. We've had some conversations with Fairfield University and Central State University, and they kind of sent us their curriculum, and we kind of gave them some feedback over a year ago about what the level of language is required, what it should look like, and really we have not heard anything back from them. I think they were a little underestimating the requirements and the what the profession requires of a legal interpreter. There is a lot out there when it comes to community interpretation, which is a very different set of skills.
Yeah.
The interpreter has more flexibility, and the code of ethics are different, but the requirements for legal are a different level. There was some studies and degrees in Massachusetts. One of our lead interpreters who's here, Chris Quaid, he took that certification, so he's phenomenal. He's here. We had one lady, one of the 4 who came from the outside, who has a certificate from the Monterey Institute of Interpretation out of California. So those are the ones that we really want to reach. Great quality, great background and education and preparation, but it is pretty much a young profession within Connecticut. To be honest with you, when I started 25 years ago, if I age myself correctly, we really didn't have the training that we offer now with our lead interpreter in charge of training. We didn't have the resources that are available out there that we're able to bring to offer them, to be able to build them up towards certification. So back then, we could really say that we were self-made interpreters, and but there is a lot more. There's really nothing at the level presently in the state that is going to instruct or build someone the way that we do it here within judicial.
Yeah, I think I had told you about my cousin in Chile who she had to get like the equivalent of a master's in interpretation to do legal work. And then, you know, there are subspecialties within each interpretation field. People just kind of take it for granted.
And we have our lead interpreter who's currently taking a master's in translation and interpreting through NYU. So the work that she does with all of the interpreters who are working towards certification is just phenomenal.
And in terms of the salaries, are they comparable to the other states?
Mm.
Oh, is that it? Sorry, guys.
That's what we're trying to part of our conversation.
We're working on that. Yeah, it's an uphill battle, but we're working on it.
Alejandra paid me to say this.
Great. Any more questions on this topic? All right. Rich, you want us to talk about the language access plan?
Yes. Thank you, Judge. As folks know, every 2 years we are required to review our language access plan, and 2023 is our year of review. So Allie and I went through it over the summer and sent out the track changes document to everybody last week to kind of update it on what needed to be taken out, what needed to be added, talking about the stuff that Allie was talking about with the VRI and the criminal and housing advisements. So we inputted all of that. I did receive some comments from Brandon and Viv already. So Allie and I will incorporate those into this document afterwards. But I guess as in wondering if anybody has any other thoughts, if they've had an opportunity to read it, if they have any other thoughts for changes. Daisy.
Thank you. I have a question. I did look at it, and my apologies because being new to this group, it's hard to know what discussions have been had prior to this. But in reading it, what I realized is what I observed is there's a strong focus on the court side of things, and so curious if there's been talks or discussions on the court required services that are components, right? Meeting with probation officers, going to our, contracted services for substance treatment, anger management, all those sorts of things. And so just wondering if that was ever part of the discussion, or are we just focusing on the court side of things?
It's really focusing on those assignments covered by interpreter services. So the probation stuff, which is judicial branch employees, yes. The CSSD providers, no, but that's not saying that's not something that can be included at a future point once we get a better hold on it. Honestly, Daisy and Allie and I met earlier this week with purchasing, and honestly, there's things that I learned, and I'm guessing things that Daisy learned as well on the services, that maybe the disconnect of services that I thought and that she thought with the provider. So I think that's a conversation that we're going to continue, but I do think that that's something that really, once we get a better handle on it, should be included.
Thank you.
Troy, of course.
So a couple of things, and I could have at some point, track changes just gets to be a lot. So
I hear ya.
just real quick. And so I may not have the page number, so I'm gonna give you the headings if that's okay. If the page numbers didn't come out on my track changes. On the committee on spot page 2, Committee on Limited English Proficiency. I see that you included Administrative Services Division as one of the members as being represented on this committee. Is it possible for you to add Administrative Services DEI? Because I think the DEI component might be a nice additional piece to it. I don't know if it looks like I might be the only administrative services person here.
Yes, you are.
And so that's the suggestion. I just thought having diversity, equity, inclusion in the title of being on this committee might be something to pretty much, show how important this is to the branch.
Okay.
So that's one suggestion. On section pertaining to certification process, 1, 2, 3. I want to say the third paragraph, a change was made on track changes as over an extended period of time. And so I'll read the whole sentence because.
Okay, I see it. Yep.
Okay. So it says, due to the fact that Spanish, Polish, and Portuguese have represented 93 to 95% of the yearly requests for language services within the branch over an extended period of time, blah, blah, blah. I didn't know if that language was kind of loose, if we could make it a little bit time. I mean, since what, 2013 to 2023, it has increased. I didn't know.
It's honestly, it's loose for a reason. And the reason being is, I know at a prior meeting we discussed it, and there's a note later on in here on one of these pages regarding this, is historically back when the LEP committee started back in 2008, probably up until about 2018, Spanish has always been by far and away the #1 requested language. Polish and Portuguese during that decade were generally 2 and 3 neck and neck.
Mm-hmm.
Starting in 2019, there's been a change. 2019 was the first year where Polish dropped from #3 and somewhat substantially. Then the pandemic hit and all of our numbers were skewed in 2020 and 2021. Beginning to get back to normal in 2022 and now 2023. But in 2022, also those numbers for Polish have continued to drop, and we're seeing the same now. So I don't think we're going to be saying that Polish is that #3 language going forward anymore. But that's got a lot of issues that we need to work out internally on what do we do now? Because right now we have staff for Polish, but they're no longer that's no longer the language in demand for the branch. It's now Chinese Mandarin or Haitian Creole sometimes jumps over Polish as well. So that's going to lead us to issues regarding what documents get translated into what languages. Trying to hire folks, but honestly, while the increased demand is there, we're not getting any of these folks who are coming in to apply for an interpreter position. So there's a lot of discussion points that we're going to have, I think, as a committee here, but it's also going to involve the Chief Court Administrator's office and HR on how we're going to handle those issues. So that's why, Troy, honestly, it was intentionally a little loose with that, because I can't honestly say that Polish is the #3 language anymore. It really hasn't been since 2019.
Okay.
So, Rich, I mean, this is just one thought to consider, it's just something for consideration. Maybe rather than saying over an extended period of time, say something like historically it has been the case, or something like that. I don't know. I don't know if that's better. But I guess I hear the reason why you kept it this particular way.
Okay. No, we could use that language, Judge. I think that will convey, convey the same meaning without highlighting my concerns.
Okay. But I mean, listen, you use whatever language you think is appropriate, but maybe that's just something to consider.
Sure. No, absolutely. Thank you.
Rich, I have another one. This is similar in vague language. And there may be a reason for this as well. This is the second or third to the last page. It's right above advisement rights. It's track changes. Judicial branch is developing a process in which an LEP individual can register a complaint regarding the language assistance services they were provided. And so I know we're going to do a process. And so I was going to ask, is there a time frame that we can put on it? Can we say that we're going to do this within a year? We'll have this in place, or do we want to leave it loose?
My sincere hope is that we'll have it done in 2024. I think we kind of have most of the framework. I think the language in the forms has already been approved by legal services. HR has given the go-ahead for it. So honestly, my hope is that in our next meeting or two that we can finalize it as a committee and it can go to 231 for its approval. So I'm hoping that by 2024 we'll be doing this.
So
I got no problem adding that language.
Okay, yeah. I just thought I'd give it a little bit more teeth.
Sure.
And in two paragraphs down, this is an advisement of rights. This is really simple. This is just a suggestion. You can take it out. Paragraph starts based on the success in Hartford and New Haven. The program was rolled out to the remaining 11 districts. I would just say the program was expanded instead of rolled out. It's probably a pet peeve of mine. I've seen it there before, and I was like, I shouldn't say anything. It's a writing style type thing, whatever. But I just tossed it out there as an option.
No, that's fine.
Other than that, I'm okay with it. I think it's good. I like the stuff that has been added. I think there are things in the report that I hope that the next time we meet we can talk about a little bit more. For example, I don't know if it was Brandon. Someone had mentioned about judges getting refresher trainings, or should the judges get more trainings and so forth. I don't think that's a conversation for making changes to the report, but I think it's a conversation that we should have, and the committee should make a recommendation. And then there's a couple other suggestions or thoughts that I would like us to talk about with respect to assessments and things of that nature. But nothing at this time for this report to be finalized.
Perfect. Absolutely. Thanks, Troy.
You're welcome.
Any other comments or thoughts? So what we'll do, go ahead.
I actually have a comment for once. Rich.
Oh, Brett, please.
No, I was just curious. So did we only roll out the, and I should remember this, the refresher course a couple months ago, Rich?
I believe it was last year.
Last year.
So it was done.
Wondering...
It was done last year, but it's required every year now. Judge Carroll required 1 year refresher. So the initial one was done in 22, had to be done by the end of 22. And then now every year it needs to be done again.
So it is required, but I'm wondering, as far as, do we know rates of people who are actually completing it? Is everybody's compliance fairly good in the branch, or could it be better?
I see Troy laughing.
Yeah.
We could follow up with and run numbers on that. Honestly, I don't know the answer on. I know it's a requirement for training that is done every year. How much of that requirement is being met? We could check with Janice's group and get numbers on that.
Yeah, I mean, don't go out of your way, but I figured maybe if it was a fairly good compliance, if we wanted to add that into the training session where you discuss it, but I defer to you, what it looks like and how much work that would be.
Sure. Thank you.
Hey, Rich,
Troy, then Brandon, then Daisy.
I agree with Brittany on this. Probably figure I'm going to agree with that. But there are things that we have in the report that we say we require or mandate for folks to do, whether it's contracted providers should take the the LEP class or staff should take it. But I think it would be nice, and again, we can table this for our next discussion. We should probably have the discussion to find out, is the branch actually really doing what we asked, what we're saying in the report? And are they doing it to what degree? And are we satisfied with that? Because now is probably the time for us to say, okay, let's buckle down and see what we got to put in place to make sure that our employees are actually taking these trainings or refreshers, or our contract providers are taking that class that they're contracted or they said they're contracted to do, or so forth. Just a follow-up, and I don't know who will do it, but it is something I think we should look at.
No, absolutely. Brandon, you still have your hand up, or?
I just wanted to make a quick comment to what Brittany was saying. I know Janice's group does send out those emails when we have these required courses, and I find them extremely helpful. We in the district then send out a branch email saying, hey, we don't want it done by that date. We want it done sooner. And the supervisors in each office, we keep on top of that. And then she sends us a follow-up for any employee who has not completed it. So it's an extremely useful tool, and I recommend that they keep doing that and we push it in that direction.
Yeah, they kind of monitor compliance and they send us reports.
Daisy?
So I don't know if this is necessarily a charge of this committee, but in reading the report and seeing this, going to this refresher training, seeing that it's due annually, I don't ever recall seeing that it's due annually. I knew there was a recent email sent out that it was due by the end of this year. I don't recall language in it that it's an annual requirement. And I might have missed it, but if that wasn't in there, maybe it would be good at some point that information gets out there, that folks are aware it is an annual requirement, not a one-time thing. And then the next time judicial makes it mandatory, we have to do it again.
Okay. Yeah, I know Judge Carroll's initial email mentioned the annual requirement. I do not recall whether the follow-up emails, the yearly follow-up emails, which aren't coming from the chief court administrator, but coming from, honestly, I don't know what Janice's unit is called now. So I'll just call it Janice's unit. What language they're using when they're sending it out, but we could definitely look into that.
Because I think they're doing the automatic yearly registrations, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so everybody's automatically registered every year to take this class. But we could look into that language, Daisy.
Rich, I would add to that, if you don't mind, that Janice and I both sit on the Professional Development Advisory Committee, and we're going to be making a recommendation for all judicial branch employees, excluding judges, to take X amount of hours every year. That's probably going to be one of the mandated courses that's going to show up automatically on that list. So that might get to what you're talking about, Daisy. And so I'll keep it in mind the next time we meet. Janice may already have it in her mind to make sure it's part of that document, but we will have a document for all current employees on, the number of hours they are going to have to get done. And if there's any specific trainings they have to take, if this is going to be one, yeah, it's definitely one of the trainings.
Perfect. And on wearing my ADA hat, they'll have to do ADA every year too, because that's required for them too.
I'm glad you said that. I'll make a note of it right now.
Yeah, because Judge Carroll and Judge Bizzuto agreed to yearly training for ADA as well. Viv?
Yes. How do contractors access the online training? Do they have access to the LMS, or do they have access to some other training
portal?
Yes.
There's a portal on our website that IT and admin services created, where they're able to access the contractor-specific LEP training that we created.
And does that portal have the ability to track how many contractors actually visit the site? And
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, every year for the LEP committee report, we have Dibby's group over at ITD runs a report of stats for us.
Okay.
Judge?
Yeah, I have a non-technical comment. It's certainly not substantive. It's really more just editorial, technical than anything else. Throughout the document, you refer to the Interpreter and Translator Services units as ITS, but at the same time, you refer in other places to the Interpreter Translator Services units. Are you referring to the same thing throughout? Is that right, or are they two separate things?
No, it's the same, ITS, yes.
They would be two separate, I mean, it's the same thing. So when we're going, we'll clarify, we'll catch those where we do it. No, it should be
consistent with each other
throughout. Yes. So what we will do is we will incorporate everybody's comments, take out the track changes, and then send it around to everybody one last time. And then once everybody's in agreement, we will finalize it and then send it to Judge Bizzuto for her approval. And once Judge Bizzuto approves it, then we'll get it posted on the branch's website.
And we'll translate it into our three languages.
Well, or at least our two languages, and we'll see about the third one.
We're still on the third one. We're still pushing for the third one.
Rich, if I can just, if I remember correctly, when you and I spoke about this a while back, I thought there was a deadline to submit this to the federal agency, but there is some sort of requirement that we do it this year, right? Or at least soon thereafter.
Correct. Yeah, ideally, we, while the Department of Justice is presumably not going to be knocking on our door if it's not posted by the end of the year, our commitment has always been to have it reviewed and revised every 2 years. So the last time was 2021. So my hope is that we'll be able to have everything finalized and approved by Judge Bizzuto by the end of the year. If not by the end of the year, shortly thereafter. But I do hope, honestly, I would hope by next week we'll have a draft to circulate, and then hopefully everybody will give everybody a week or two to look at it, and then we could get it over to Judge Bizzuto.
Great. Anything else on this topic?
No, I think that covers it, unless anybody else has any questions.
Okay, you want to go on to the next section? Next steps?
Yeah, so for next steps, so these are, and this is going to kind of get to Troy's point that he raised earlier. A couple of things that Allie and I would like to start working on and continue to work on. I know we've kind of talked about them and gotten to various points through the committee on some of these topics, but to kind of focus on for next year is finalizing that interpreter complaint process. I know we've said it for a long time, coming up with training for judges and external stakeholders. We work close on a sort of judge's chief clerk training with Justice Khan, and obviously that changed with Justice Khan's circumstances. So really working on a judge's training. We really haven't had a real formal training for judges since 2016 when we did the divisional meetings. So I do think we really need to, Judge Carroll has sent out a couple of memos to the judges regarding interpreter services and things that they should and should not do. But I do think we're really at the point where we really should train them. We do train the new judges every year. Allie and myself, and I think it's time, whether it's online or in person or how best to do that, we can figure that out. But I do think that's something we really need to focus on. And also the forms and signage. I know we talked about that to kind of have language on our forms and signage in our court regarding interpreter services, and that they're available at no cost to folks. I know we got hung up on the icon that that we agreed to, and legal certain folks in legal liked, and others may not have liked, like me. So maybe we can start discussing that at our next meeting once we finally get the LAP stuff out of the way. So those are a couple of topics that I was hoping that we can kind of focus on next year as we move forward. But if folks have other thoughts on additional topics that they know of now, or great, or if they want to let us know in the future for future agendas, that's fine as well.
Yeah. So I'm in agreement with you on the judges training. I'm glad that all new judges get the training. I think that's great. But I would like to see, as you see, the judges get some type of refresher periodically. What that looks like, whether it's in person or online or whatever. So I'm in agreement with you. There are two other things that I would like us to be able to talk about in the future. So I'll mention that now. And so, you know, on our document, we had talked about a self-assessment that the judicial branch does for language access plans. And so I'm always glad to see that we're doing our own self-assessment. But a question that I was thinking about was, you know, do we get a chance to hear from a formal mechanism to hear from the community or the advocates in the community what they think about our LEP plan or LEP services that we're able to provide? And I don't think we have anything that's formal. I think we have an anecdotal.
Yeah, we did a survey. I don't remember when we, excuse me, sorry. I know we did a survey, that the committee did a survey a couple of years ago. I don't recall. I don't know if anybody else recalls off the top of their head when that was. But that was the last formal thing we did, Troy. Whether we were doing something new, I think it's a good idea.
And I'm not suggesting it. I'm not suggesting. I'm just putting out it as something that I would like us to talk about, or whether or not we think it would be a good idea to hear from the actual users of our services, whether or not they think it's good. So our self-assessment is great, but whether or not the actual folks who are coming in and using the services, or their representatives or so forth, advocates. And so if we did something before, then I'd like to at least have the conversation on if that would be valuable in the future.
Yep, I'll put that on the list.
The second one I have, and then I won't monopolize everybody's time, and that is whether, you know, we say that contracted providers per the contract, and Daisy, you're going to see a lot more of this more frequently in the future, that they are supposed to do some LEP training and so forth. I just wouldn't mind having a conversation on what mechanism we have in place to ensure that they're actually doing that. So we put in a contract, but just because it's in a contract doesn't mean that they've actually did what we asked them to do. On my years of procurements, I know this is the case, and I'm pretty sure Daisy would agree with me on this one. And so if there's a mechanism for us to follow up and find out if they're doing it, and if not, what does it mean for our procurements? And so does that mean we got to get purchasing involved, or our individual offices involved to say, hey, contractor X, you are required to do this. We notice that you haven't done it yet. Here's the follow-up, or here is the potential consequence if you don't follow up with, you know, taking this training. So I just like to add that to the agenda as well. Again, not saying we should do it or not do it, just saying it's an item that I would like to see on future agendas.
Absolutely. Michelle.
So I wanted to echo what Troy was talking about, because the reason that I was able to push the whole agenda at my program for creating our language access plan was because at the time we had a CSSC contract, and I had gone to Troy's training, and so I could go back and, you know, give everyone the legal authority for why we need to have this thing. So I found it very helpful, and I don't know if asking people to provide or asking, you know, the contractors to provide their language access plan, or could be something, but I know it was definitely important for us, what Troy had done. And Alejandra too, because Alejandra had done the training also.
Yeah, and I think I kind of did a quick search. The last time we did the survey with the community organizations was back in 2018.
Can I ask a question? When you say contractors, who specifically are you referring to?
So, when we do that, when we take a stretch?
Sure.
So contractors refer to any entity that does a service for the judicial branch, whether it's the person that comes in and fix our elevators or the people we buy our cars from, et cetera, et cetera. I formerly was at CSSD, so I tend to focus on the contractors that provide direct services to our clients, like our AICs, our adult behavioral health service providers, our residential facilities, and things of that nature. Because I think it's extremely important that they have a language access plan and the ability to communicate to the clients in the language that they, are most comfortable speaking. Otherwise, those clients are likely not to succeed in the services or behavior change that we're trying to administer.
Yeah. Okay.
Those were my two items, Rich, at the moment. And again, that's what I would like to see us at least have on our agenda.
Thank you. Any other thoughts at this time? And obviously you don't have to give them to me now. You can give it to us at any point as we move forward when something comes to your mind that you want to discuss. Hearing none. All right. Thank you.
So I guess the next item is the next meeting, and what do people think about the next meeting? If I could just start with that, I would prefer to have at least a very brief meeting before the end of the year, just to see where we are on the plan. I mean, I don't want to suggest that we need to have it done and finalized by then, but at least just have a touch base on where we are on that plan. And it could be a very brief meeting. At least just have an idea what the time frame is going forward on that.
Okay, we could definitely do that. So maybe something, I know with the holidays in December, maybe early to mid-December.
Yeah, and I think it's just,
Absolutely.
yeah, and I think it's just a touch base meeting. I don't think it has to be an elaborate necessary meeting necessarily, but just to at least know where we are and what the plan is moving forward on that.
Perfect. So what we'll do is, Brandon.
Just have one comment. I don't know if it's right to bring it up to this meeting or not, but the most recent poster that we received regarding electronic devices in a courthouse, we now have them in English, Spanish, Portuguese, and Polish. My worry down the road, if and when these become translated into additional languages, the posters are very large and finding wall space is starting to diminish. So I wonder if we as a committee start looking into some sort of a, I mean, I hate to say bulletin board, but something, a leaflet, a large booklet that has perhaps the languages written on the side that people can actually open up like a book that we can start posting together. It's something that when I looked at our windows where we have them at the entry, I had to move them. And if we had 6 of them, I think we'd run into a jam on where exactly we start posting these signs. It's not working, Rich. You were breaking up earlier. It might be technical.
Yeah. I wonder if we can do something similar to what we initially had years ago with the iSpeak cards.
Can you elaborate? I forgot. I remember the iSpeak cards, but can you elaborate on what we did with them? Allie?
I was looking for one, Troy. They're
okay.
basically, yeah, I thought I had one in my desk somewhere as a
Oh, yeah.
reference. Oh, I do.
Rich skimming.
So I'll hold it up. I don't know if you can see
so
it.
those
So
are
basically,
old. I think those are a really, really old one.
Yeah.
So we need to get something. And one thing that we see that helps is the flag sometimes, showing the flag, because sometimes they relate to the flag better than the written information.
Right.
So yeah, I think we can try to change the format of what we had thought of updating it.
Yeah, no, we
Some
could
years
definitely look
ago.
at that.
Great. So what else? So
what
We're
we'll
re-
do is we'll look to schedule a meeting for probably early December, to just make sure everything is finalized for the language access plan. So we'll circulate some dates for that. And we'll also probably early next week also try to set up a time for everybody to come and see the VRI. So everybody can see what the video remote interpreting system looks like and how that works.
great.
Right?
Can I make a recommendation or suggestion? Is it possible for us to get a schedule for the year in advance? I know we didn't do that in the past, you know. It just makes it a lot easier for me to plan ahead. If we have, you know, here are the 4 times a year that we're going to meet, and I just put it on my calendar and call it a day. I know, you know, we spent some time with Heather going back and forth as who's available, who's not available. And so I just like to make that a suggestion.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good. Go ahead,
Oh,
Rich.
go ahead, Judge.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good suggestion. I mean, I think seeing that the approval of the last minutes was November of 2022. I think we have to decide maybe in January in December, how many times in 2024 do we want to meet? You know, whether we do it quarterly or we do it, you know, biannually or whatever the need is.
Yeah, so maybe we could maybe at the December meeting, if everybody were to bring their calendar, we could try to set up 3 or 4 dates, knowing it may end up get moved as things happen in life, but we'll try to schedule 3 or 4 meetings at the December meeting, so folks know what to plan for.
Great.
It's a good idea.
And one last thing, I know I'm the one that's holding up the meeting. I apologize again. Do we post our meetings to the public? Do we tell them when we're going to have the next meeting?
Yes, it's posted on the branch's website.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
And it also goes to Heather will correct me, it still goes to the Secretary of the State, right?
I believe so. It's been a year since I took any minutes.
All right.
But yeah, we do post it, and we, you know, notify folks if they want an ADA accommodation that they can reach out to the ADA program box as well.
All right. So it probably would be really helpful if we had a meeting schedule set up in advance for public to know when they're going to be available to attend.
Right.
That's it. I'll stop talking now.
Nope, we can do that.
Anything else, anybody? So I think maybe we could just, I'm sorry?
Nothing on my end.
Okay. Well, I think then we should just adjourn at this point, right? And I think, Rich, if you can circulate a date in early December or mid-December, then we can just touch base to see where we are and where we are with the plan and when do we want to meet and how many times we want to meet during the calendar year 2024.
Perfect.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Have a nice afternoon, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye, folks.